there's about a good 95% chance that none of you know the show we are talking about, and that's why we are recommending it right now. Welcome to the Borderland. I'm Manny.
That was good. I'm Joseph.
And today, obviously, Frank is not here because he does not watch the show. So it is a Manny and Joseph exclusive. Call it DP time. We'll be talking about Alice in Borderland. It just recently finished up its final season. The live action Alice in Borderland just wrapped up with its final season. It was 3 seasons long. And I can honestly say this for a future top 5 that'll be happening later down the line. It will be in my top 5 favorite live action TV shows I have watched in my lifetime. This show, and we'll
like it
do
that much.
non-spoiler. We'll do non-spoiler real quick. My rating for this show in its entirety is a 9 out of 10. It is a 9 out of 10. And if you dare to go against me on that, I'm willing to have that debate. This is the perfect blend of story, action, all the blood and gore you could possibly think of, survivalist instincts on 1000. It is so anime that it is amazing to me. 3 seasons of pure gold, in my opinion. The final season's a little bit iffy, but season 1 and 2 are pure gold. If season 3 was a little bit better, it would have been a 10 out of 10. But it's a 9 out of 10. I gotta knock it. Arsu, which is the main character, I love him. He will go down as a favorite MC in the future. That man stand 10 toes down on business and was in there to save everyone and failed multiple times, but saved the one that mattered. I love this show. I can't speak enough about it.
Joseph's non-spoiler rating, because I do watch a lot of stuff, but I'm very particular on what I watch. If there's going to be a 9 or a 10, it has to be a show that I would, rewatch. At least for Alice in Borderlands, I would rewatch season 1 and 2. Season 3, I don't think that the show needed another season. If they gave season 3, 3 more episodes, because the pacing was a little weird. It was slow, then it sped up, and then it slowed, and then it went hyper fast. And if they had that breathing room of an extra handful of episodes, just a little bit, again, 2 or 3 more, then I would agree to Manny's rating of it being like a 9 out of 10. Or, honestly, at that point, it probably would have been a 10 out of 10. But in totality, I'm kind of leaning more towards a 7, 7.5. I want to give it an 8. I'll probably just say 8. In that sense, good show. Great pacing, for the most part. Well, for season 1 and 2. It's unique on its own, because us being in the US of A, it's a foreign show. So it's refreshing to see another culture's style and take on cinematography on a live action show, how they present it. Action's on point. I'm not gonna lie. Season 2, especially, action is on point. The story's there, the relationships are there, and it hits a little bit of every note. There's some fun, there's some scary moments, it gets tense. It's a nice sliver of life that the show portrays, especially with how layered each side character actually can be. They don't just throw a person there just to be an extra. They contribute to the story in some way, shape, or form, even if they're only there for a handful of minutes. You get the quick gist of hey, this person's here. You get their motivations immediately, and the show just continually moves forward. My main issue with the show is just the pacing in season 3. I still recommend it as a fun watch, especially if you like shows where people get thrown in some game world and they don't know what they're doing and they have to figure stuff out. Because aside from the characters figuring out, you yourself as a viewer, you're trying to figure it out too. And that's always just fun to have that weird meta-like sense of engagement. Yeah, that's where I stand.
So you stand at an 8.
I want to give it a 7, but out of how much I really like the first 2 seasons, I'm giving it an 8.
My opinions is, and I'm just going to add this in there, first season is a 10 out of 10. Actually, first season is probably like a 9.5 out of 10, maybe a 9. Season 2 is a 10 out of 10. Season 3 itself is probably like a 7, 8, in my opinion. So if I bring all that together, I would realistically be at like an 8.5 to a 9. So I say 9 because I really enjoyed the show.
I could respect that.
So the alarms are sounding. It's time to enter the spoiler room warning, aka it's time to take the needle and go into the spoiler room Borderland. Let's go. You'll get that reference if you watch the show. Do not do drugs. Do not do drugs. This is your spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1. Now, my main gripe with season 3 is I read the manga. So the Joker in the manga is actually the person that transports you to the Borderland, and it's an actual person. The Joker
Okay.
is literally the guardian of the world between worlds. Basically, you could almost essentially compare him to like a Grim Reaper-esque figure. He will take you to where near death.
Like a Shinigami.
Exactly.
Okay.
They completely changed that up in season 3. And they completely made it that the Joker is just basically nothing, essentially. Whereas you would have, I thought at the end of season 2, when the psychopath and the other guy, the business guy, the scammer, where they accept citizenship, I thought that the business guy or the psychopath would be the Joker, as essentially they would be the guys, they would be, well, one of them would be the guy to transport them back into the Borderland, with the psychopath's motivation of the whole time being that he wants Arisu to be a citizen because he wants to play with him forever. He wants him to be a part of the world and be a fixture in the world because he's so good in that world. So I was thinking, okay, it's going to be the twist on the fact that the Joker is acting on his own. So I assumed that the guy was basically going to be like, I'm going to go to the real world, I'm going to take you, and I'm going to put you back in it. But I would have preferred the Joker to be a little bit more catered towards the manga version, where he's just an entity that is the guardian and the transporter between worlds. Just wanted to, that is my main gripe with season 3. That's my main gripe with this whole show in its entirety.
Like I said, I don't like season 3 because of the pacing, because when they explain the whole Joker aspect of things, or they got, like, to the crux of the final game and whatnot, that the pacing for that went to the wayside, in my opinion, because they're in the semifinal game, they're choosing which room to go to, whatever, and then suddenly it just cuts into this whole almost divine conversation with the Watchmen. And I'm just like, okay, but the entire season they talked about, hey, they're cutting people out like a tournament, and there should only be one standing, yet there's a whole group of people to the left that somehow are still alive. And there was a weird disparity between, this is the vibe we're getting towards as we were getting closer to the last episode, because it was just only 6 episodes. Sequentially, I'm just like, okay, where's the story going? Because then at certain points, like 4th episode, you're introducing new characters, and I was like, how long are they going to really be here? Like, how are you going to flesh them out? Eventually, throughout the whole season, or whole series, questions are asked of, like, what's going on, what's happening here and there and there, where, you would expect the show to sort of build that note. But it teases it, it doesn't build it, it teases it, to then just give you a response at the very end. And a big plot hole, in my opinion, is this paralyzed doctor dude and the whole getting the psychopath to bring them back over there because he wanted them over there. Why couldn't he just wait?
Wait
Because
for
when the
what?
show ends, they talk about, oh, there's a flood coming of, like, people coming here, because some global catastrophe is about to occur. And the show ends where that global catastrophe basically is starting, because you have earthquakes all over the world. So I would think it would be more impactful if season 3 happened with the next catastrophe. You know what I mean? Where everyone just gets thrown in there. Not some weird pregnancy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm a psychopath, I just want you in my game. And then characters that were previously in the seasons, like 1 and 2, weren't just there for season 3, and then you got thrown with new characters. Not to say that I don't like the new characters, but you
Yeah,
already
no,
built up relationships with the
I
other
already,
two.
that is probably my other gripe with it, is that it tried. I think it would have been more beneficial if the people from season 2 and 1 were played a bigger role, at least, because it was very hard to kind of connect to the newer group. Essentially, they make it make sense on why people from 1 and 2 don't return in season 3, only essentially because technically they weren't the winners, but it contradicts that in the sense that most of these people that were winners in the Borderland beforehand,
They wanted to go back.
they seemingly came back for what reason we don't know, but it plays on the fact that that's why it's good and it's bad at the same time. It plays on the fact that their lives after the Borderland did not get any better, and it only got worse. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So basically, that was their motivation. It seemingly with every single one of them. My gripe, my thing is, and I know I might be playing a little advocate here. I think that your gripe right now is more with the character building that you saw with 1 and 2, and then in season 3 is completely gone to the wayside for a
Well,
new
I mean,
story that is
aside from
that
character
is
building, the story building, where did it go? Like I said, it started cool, and then they're thrown back in. But for whatever reason, they're thrown back in. I'm just like, okay, this just feels stupid, in my opinion. But like I said, the show ends with the great catastrophe coming. Either which way, you could infer, like after they finally got out of the situation, they had the kid, right? And sure. But then realistically speaking, the show ends inferring he's just gonna get thrown back in.
not necessarily. Not necessarily, because when you
Or
see
he
at
just
the end,
dies.
the earthquake doesn't necessarily hit their area. It hits other areas. So it's more of playing on the fact that there are other areas. See, this is why Squid Game and this played on each other like similarly, because at the end of Squid Games you see that there's like an American Squid Games that's happening around the world.
Of
Just because
Korea.
he stopped it in Korea doesn't necessarily mean it stopped everywhere else. And the Watchman is basically trying to tell Arisu that just because you won here, there are still other places around the world where this is going to happen. It's kind of like the irony of the protagonist where you want to stop this from happening and you want this to end, but at the same time you're hit with the irony of this is going to happen somewhere else. I guess
Well,
that's where at the
to
end where he sees the news of it happening around the world, he's just like, all right. It's
Well,
kind of
not
like
that.
the acceptance
He
of
felt the tremors because they, opposed to like Squid Games, where it's like, oh, this is happening everywhere, and the realm of death, life and death, and that cycle. At least how I interpreted the Watchman's explanation. Sure, you're winning now. That's fine, but your situation of winning is simply prolonging the inevitable. You know what I mean? Because either
yeah,
which way,
I
you're
can
here to
understand it.
just live a little longer, and you're choosing life the way that you are, but it's
But
inevitable at that point.
it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going back to the borderland because it's necessary. Like just because a natural disaster is happening doesn't mean he's at the center of it compared to how he was in the center of the meteor strike at the end of season 2.
Yeah, but that just happened. Just happens.
No, 100%. But I want to talk about we talked about a little bit of what bugs us. I want to talk about the good in this show.
Get
Starting
focused.
from starting from season 1, you follow Arisu, main character throughout these entire seasons. You follow Arisu and his group of friends. And this show does a great job, at least in season 1 and 2, of building up your side characters. And I wanted to harp in on that. It did a tremendous job of making me feel for these side characters. At some points, I like them better than Arisu. To be honest, let's just be real. They play such an integral role in the story where those two friends are remembered throughout season 2. They kind of get a little bit pushed to the wayside in season 3, which is kind of booty for me. They played such an integral part in his development as an MC. When you further into it, all those people play in such a big factor. And then season 1 ends with being like, yo, are you guys stupid? There are more cards in the deck. Like, you thought this was done? Like, it does a very good job of that. And then, season 2, it just furthers that development of those characters, building off of season 1 into season 2. And it brings what me and Joseph believe is the definition of get the job done. The King of Spades.
That man, that thing, to be honest, that force
That
of nature of
that
a man
that
is
that
inspirational.
anomaly.
Because if you ever had doubt of your ability to get stuff done, if you need to improve your work ethic, please watch season 2. Just watch him. That's all
Just
you
watch
gotta do.
every scene that he's in.
Persistence. Don't be stubborn, people. Don't be stubborn. Be persistent. There's a difference.
And, obviously, this show obviously builds its characters. It also does the villains really well. I love the antagonists. Everybody's done perfectly. Even in season 3, you can say what you want to say about them. He played the psychopath, the serial killer played his part well. He was and up to the point where him and Arisu are alone and it's just him laughing at his face like, you're stuck here, brother. You fell for it. Like, you're with me now. Like that. It goes without saying that this show does both sides of the coin very well in terms of the protagonist and antagonist throughout the entirety of this show.
To your point, the biggest strength that this show has, aside from like story, pacing, character development, is throughout its entirety, you really get a good sliver of like humanity, the good and the bad. And that really benefits the show. And that's probably the best part about it. Because you'll have Erisu's development, because he starts off like some gamer dude. And like the stereotypical gamer dude not doing anything with his life. And, he has to go through stuff to like, grow up. And, unfortunately, he lost his friends. And that trauma pushed him forward. It helped him grow as a character. It helped everyone in the show, for the most part, grow up as individuals. And to me, if any show could really exemplify that and exhibit that, I'm inclined to really favor the show, whether the story's garbage or not. But if you have that sense of development, then, however which way the story may end, you at least can say you got it,
I 100% love that there isn't much story to go off of, yet the show is so good to play off of the fact that it's building up the different games, the setting, the theme around it, the lessons learned, and the growth between those characters. And I appreciate that so much because this story is not really it's not a convoluted story. It is a dude that is literally put into a land where he has to survive different trials and tribulations while building his own development as a person, for that way when he gets out of this land he becomes something more, because it harps on to the fact that his father is like disappointed in him and he doesn't like the fact that he's lazy and all this stuff. And you see the development of Erisu, the main character, from season 1 to season 3, where he literally becomes an upstanding citizen. It's the growth that is unspoken in this show that pushes it boundaries to my top 5. And I think that if more shows were like this, where it was more about being in the moment and more about being the growth of a character, I would tend to watch more TV shows. And I think this may revitalize my excitement for live action shows.
So you're saying that in the sense, like, the plot is the plot, but the plot should be the characters, not necessarily the...
Yes, because the
Okay.
story should be the supporting element to the character's growth. Breaking Bad is a specific example of this, and I'll speak very quickly on that. Breaking Bad is literally just about drugs. It's about drugs and a dude with cancer trying to make the best of life while he's on this earth. And you just see the development of Walter White through. And it's one of the greatest shows ever created. You know what I'm saying? That is so big in the development of TV shows nowadays. I think it's just something I should harp on. I'm done, by the way.
Oh, I'm done. It's still recommended. Every now and then if there's clips on the internet, like, I'll watch it. I ain't gonna skip it and be like, yeah, that was a pretty good moment. I'll appreciate it for what it is. Makes me want to watch the anime. I'll give that a shot if the story makes more sense.
It isn't finished. They never made it. They just did one season and that's it.
Well,
you're gonna get blue ball. You're gonna get blue balled more than you got blue balled in season 3.
Well, you know what? Getting blue balled, the story of my humanity. But either which way,
That's the way you want to end it.
Yeah. I'm not lying to the audience. This is how I am in real life. This is what you get.
We want to thank y'all for watching it with us, reviewing Alice in Borderland, the entirety of beautiful work that they've done. And we want to know, do you even know what this show is? Do you even know that it's on Netflix? And if you have watched the show and you've reached this point, let us know what you thought. Or am I crazy to call it a top 5 show of all time?
Yes.
Probably. But then again, people call Stranger Things a top 5 show of all time, and it ain't even top 5. It ain't that good. You know where you could do that? You do that down in the comments below. And if you want to have a longer conversation with us, join the Discord. I'm more than willing to debate you. Bring it. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, Spotify. Make sure to like this video. And we appreciate Frank for being here in spirit. You're great. This has been the Triple Take. I'm Manny,
I'm Joseph.
and we will see you in the Borderland.
Peace.